What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. If it's your first time coming to hang out, let me just get you up to speed on what's going to go down today. Our show name is our sections of what we'll talk about. So Buds is going to be for those who travel the green with myself and my guest today. Bros is going to be me getting to know my guest today and figuring out how great it is to grow up nerdy. And Superheroes, we're pretty deep into 3 episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier. So we're going to talk about those, recap those, and kind of break them down, see what's going on. My name is Nick James, and today I'm joined by first-time guest, Mr. Mark. Please say hello.
Hi guys, nice to meet you all.
What's going on today, sir? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. How about yourself?
Not bad. Pretty excited to get into this. For the first time in a while on this show, I'm not really a fan of this Falcon and Winter Soldier show, so we're kind of going to shit on it a little bit as well and kind of maybe stir the pot and get some controversy going, because usually this show is 98% of me going, don't you love this? I love this so much. No. But no, not today. Today I watched the 3rd episode and I just sat there going, what the fuck are we doing? Where are we going? What's going on? But we'll get to that in a little bit. So to start the show off like we always do, we're going to head in to the Bud section. So what am I smoking on today? Because I am smoking as we do this. It's East Coast Sour Diesel. Still a really big fan of Franklin Labs. I don't know if you've been to Harvest or anything around here, but
I just moved up here, so I don't really know a lot of the spots around here. Prior to that, I mean, I really just took from people that I knew who would, constantly either grow their own or would buy from other growers, and then I would kind of just partake into what they would, what they were selling that particular day when I came over to their house or they came over to mine. So I'm not really particular on the area and knowing exactly where to procure any kind of cannabis.
But being a traveler of the green, we could talk about past experiences in this little thing. So do you have a favorite time in which first of all, how do you like to consume your cannabis?
Right now, I usually smoke it. I do want to try edibles. I hear from a lot of people that edibles are the way to go. Apparently, like, the high's different, the hit's different. I've done the THC liquid version, and I kind of like that. It was a different high. It was I could say that it was I was there, and I could feel the high, but then at the same time, I was very, my motors were still all intact. So, like, I could literally feel like nothing to me physically was altered. So, like, mentally, I was up there. But physically, I was like, oh, I can pick up this water bottle, and I felt perfectly fine. And it was like there was no adverse effects versus just smoking the typical grass, where then you get hit by, like, certain stages. So, first you're, like, lazy. Then next thing you know, you're hyped back up. Then you get hungry. Like, with the THC liquid version, what's probably about my favorite is that you kind of just got a really good high, and you just kind of felt like you already bypassed all the other sides of smoking marijuana. You were just right at the good part.
And that came in like a tincture? Like a droplet that you then put on? Or how do you consume that?
Yeah, it was like a little drop. I usually did them by, like, e-vape, so they were already, like, into the liquid vial in itself, and you would just kind of, like, refill just like if you were vaping.
Interesting. I've never done that. I have tried vape pens are prepackaged, but I've never actually put it on myself. Very, very interesting. In terms of edibles, yeah, it is different turning something into something else. I always fuck it up, but THC becomes something different. And I tell the story of I didn't like the way that hit. When it really hit the one time it did hit a little funny where I'm not usually a paranoid person, or if I am, I'm able to control it. At least, kind of talk myself out of, no, stop it. You're being crazy. And the one time I tried it, no, I couldn't even do that. I was really, really positive. Everybody around me was like, how dare you? How dare you be so high right now in this restaurant? But no, nobody was looking at me. One of your favorite times smoking? Do you have any, like, fun times, good stories, anything you want to share?
Yeah, typically I like to do what many may have very different terms for, but space cruising, that's like the main terminology. I'm sure there's many others. I don't know if I've heard of them, but it's pretty much you're driving, you're smoking, you have a destination, but that destination is not really planned out. So like, if I was gonna go to the mall, and that was our destination, because I always like to smoke with people. I like smoking with myself, but I like to smoke with people. I think like the high and just being around other people is very like it just makes it a lot better and more enjoyable for me. So going on a space cruise, you're pretty much just smoking, you're driving, you have a destination, you don't know where you're actually gonna end up because you may get hungry. So the next thing you know, you're like, we're gonna go to White Castle, we're gonna go to Taco Bell's, we're gonna go here, and then that trip will come down to going to a side trip, and then that side trip you may see something on the way and you want to stop. I know like a couple times where we've smoked, we saw a comic book store, or we saw an action figure store that was just like, oh, what is that? And then it's like, I don't know what that is, but we have to stop right now. We're gonna loop around. We're gonna figure this out. We're gonna stop there. We're gonna go look.
You said White Castle, sir. That's awesome. How long has it been since you've had it? Since you've been here, I'd assume, right?
Yeah, since I moved up here, there was one close by. I couldn't tell you exactly where the town was because I kind of found it by mistake on a space cruise. And we kind of just ran into it. We were just driving and driving and driving, and we actually were lost, and we were getting really hungry. And then we Googled restaurants near us, and then White Castle popped up, and it was like, there's a White Castle 2.5 miles away. We're going to the White Castle. So that's how that happened.
Hell yeah, dude. I just went, not just, but pretty recently went to Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash in New Jersey, where there's White Castles aplenty. And I found it so funny. Back in the day, or still, you could order them. 30 burgers was a Crave case. And now they'll give you 20 in a Crave clutch. And I found that pretty fucking adorable. So I got 20 cheeseburgers, and over the course of 3 days, just destroyed them. And it was amazing. And it was kind of bad in a sense of before I did this and I was out here, I would think about White Castle, but the memory was a little faint. And now it's so fresh that I'm really considering just saying, fuck it. You know, I have 3 days off in a row anymore. I'm going to take that first day and I'm going to go get me some fucking White Castle because it's so good. One of my favorite times that I remember, I was with my cousins again in New Jersey. So we should have probably hit up White Castle. Was just smoking on their patio, and it's one of the only times I really ever remember saying, I don't want to smoke anymore. Like, you have officially beaten me. I am done. I am just too high right now. It was me, my two cousins, their siblings, and then maybe 2 or 3 extra of their friends. And we were just sitting around, so we had multiples going. I don't know if you've ever done this, if you have multiple pieces going around. And one person either uses it as a microphone, is what I like to say, or, you know, they're hogging it. And all of a sudden, the second one comes around to them before they've passed it. And it was this dumb thing where you take the both and you make little antlers and then you have to hit them both. And then, and you're fucked because now you're smoking double time pretty much. And I just have this really strong memory of me sitting there and they're like, oh, both are there. And I'm just like, I'm just almost in pain, but also just so happy. And having to do that and just like, oh, Jesus Christ, you are high. That was a really good time. And honestly, I don't really remember what happened after that. We were just super duper baked and hanging around, probably watched something if I had to imagine. I think maybe they were going to a something or just came back from a concert. I don't know. Pre-pandemic, I was not a concert festival person, so I'm not somebody who's like, bring them back. So I don't really remember if that's not me. Is that you? Do you like that shit?
I would when I was younger. I would go to a lot of concerts, not festivals really, but like concerts. I like to see a lot of underground bands, and I became friends with a lot of those underground people, singers and stuff like that, and the bandmates. But other than that, typically I'm a homebody, so I like to be home. But I do like to just, like I said, like when I'm smoking, I like to be around people, and if the adventure's there, you know, we go and do something. And I'm typically the type of person that's like, if I haven't been somewhere, I want to be there. So if I haven't, like if you told me right now, there's a comic book store somewhere in the area, we can get there, they're open right now, and I'd sit there and tell you, let's do it. Like, I'm free, I have time, let's go look at that right now. As long as it's like, it piques my interest and it's something that's, you know, like I haven't seen, I'm going to go for it.
The closest one I know around is Comics on the Green, downtown Scranton. Have you been to that one?
No, I've seen it. And unfortunately, during the pandemic, when I moved up here during the pandemic, it was closed. So like I looked through the windows and I was like, oh my God, he's got some really cool stuff here. And I was like, when is he open?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and then with the pandemic, you're like, when will he ever be open? So it was like one of those types of deal where I saw it and I wanted to go in, couldn't go in.
Follow him on Facebook. I believe you can go in now. And during that time, he was only doing curbside pickup, which makes sense. But I think you can go in now. And if you look in through that window, did you see the giant fucking Silver Surfer?
Yes.
So cool. Gosh, I want to own a comic book store. I want to own a comic. Like, have you ever seen Kick-Ass? You know,
Yeah.
the comic book store / cafe? I would love to own one of those where the cafe is also a green cafe. But then I think about, like, what if somebody gets a little overserved? Like, they're just a little too high with a fucking cappuccino in their hands, and they spill it on a long box, and I'm like, fuck. So I've tried to, like, think of the logistics of you can't cross this line with a drink or a book, or I don't know if it'll ever work. But I do want to own both businesses, and I would love to try to put them together.
It would be an interesting concept. I think what you could do is you could sit there and make, like, it would probably take a lot of time, but you would literally just, like, plastic wrap everything. So, like, in those case scenarios, because I know if I'm high, I can get really clumsy. And I know, like, last time I was super high, like you were speaking of earlier, I went to the King of Prussia Mall, and I was literally walking like if I was Squidward. Like, I was sitting there, like, big steps, and I'm like people were, like, looking at me, and they're like, that's a guy out of fish out of water. And I remember that comic because there was, like, 4 teenage girls behind me, and they're like, that guy's a fish out of water. And I was trying to head to the comic book store that was there. I forget what the comic book store's name is, but they have these giant figurines, which I would love to buy one, but they go for like probably like $1,000. And they have like these superheroes, they have Spider-Man and all that. And we were going up there, and I was trying to walk up the escalator, and I was like literally taking these giant steps trying to get up the escalator, even though the escalator would take me up there if I was just stood still. But that concept was not there because, you know, I was on a 4-hour smoking spree. So I was like, oh, crazy.
Yeah, no, you don't fuck around on escalators. For Kevin Smith fans, have you ever seen Mallrats?
Yeah.
Get an ambulance. There's a kid stuck on the escalator. So you mentioned earlier that munchies can sometimes be a problem. What do you like to do for those?
I can tell you, I've not had really bad ideas when I was high, but I have had bad ideas eating while being high. So I was like thinking, I remember taking a whole pizza, rolling it up like a burrito, and I'm talking like a large pepperoni, sausage, the works. And I rolled it up like a burrito, and I ate the whole thing. And then 30 minutes later, the worst stomach ache ever in my life had occurred.
That does sound like a stomach ache kind of problem, sir. I did that. I just got off work. We went to McDonald's, 12 nuggets and a large strawberry shake, all down in like 5 minutes. And then I went to bed. Like, literally went to fucking bed. And I woke up in the middle of the night going, oh, why does my stomach hurt so bad? And she's like, what are you, freaking stupid? Like, this is what just happened. And I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a bad idea.
Yeah. I mean, if I had a lot of bad ideas when I was high, well, then mostly when it comes down to food, it's not particularly like I'm going to go and light myself on fire, but it was more like I'm going to light my stomach on fire by eating something that I shouldn't, or eating a combination of food that you shouldn't. And then you just end up being sick from it.
Let me get 1 plate of nachos and 15 packs of Gushers. And it's like, yeah, when your stomach kills. And it's like, maybe that wasn't the best combination. Good call. Good call. What's everybody's out there favorite thing to eat when you guys are smoking? Leave a comment down below. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I think I did all of them. That'd be really great if you could. If you can't, tell a friend. That's always the best thing I can ask for as I close out the bud section and we can open up this bro section. So entering this bro section, we have something pretty cool in common now. We are about to be family, like by law and shit, right? So you proposed to your fiancé, whose mom is brothers to my wife's dad. Figure that out, guys. So in more simple terms and not dumbass speakery, your soon-to-be mother-in-law and my father-in-law are siblings. Just what do you think that makes us? Does that make us anything? Like, do we have a term?
I don't know. That is a really good question. I don't know what the terminology would be for that. We were talking about it earlier, and I was still trying to like think of something. I'm still sitting there like, it does make us family, but does like I'm trying to think of it as in like if I was looking at a family tree, what branch would we be on?
our wives are first cousins. So I think that would make you to my wife and me to your wife. No, because, that would still make us first cousins once removed. And then we would be twice removed?
I guess. But then how would that make our siblings? Would they be like third removed at that point? Because, we all have siblings.
I don't think at that point the law carries over anymore. I don't know how that works, to be honest. Yeah, that's a big, so you're saying, what are you to my sister then?
Yes.
Huh.
Because, if we know that we're family, then how is your family branched into my family? Are we going into, a Harry Potter thing where there's, a whole entire wall and we're, all connected by these branches?
Air high five. Boom. What a great fucking reference. I want to do that up this wall, just like that, but I don't have the artistic ability. But that is a great reference drop. Yeah, because there's somewhere they would eventually be on there together. And that just kind of makes you wonder, wouldn't then everybody be connected?
Well, I think by that sense, we would. I mean, how many people are, related to, Genghis Khan?
Lots.
Yeah. So you would think, by almost all of the Western Hemisphere, or the Eastern Hemisphere, they would all be related in some fashion, at least in the more Asian provinces.
It reminds me of this bad joke for a show that I never ended up watching, but it was one of those YouTube ads that you couldn't skip. And it was just that. And that's the only reason I know said information about a lot of people being related to Genghis Khan, because the guy says something like, 85%, whatever the number is. And then the one guy's looking through his DNA test and it says I'm related to Shaka Khan. And I don't know why that joke hit me a lot better than, I guess the show did, because I don't remember seeing anything else for it. But
yeah.
With getting to know each other and being family now, I want to know just a little bit more about, we have talked a little bit off mic. You are not new to the nerd, if you will. Growing up nerdy is something that you did, same as me. I just want to hear about your experience with it. What's some of your earliest memories of where do you like to deep dive on your nerd?
Well, let's see. I'm 31 years old, so when it comes down to it, I think we kind of both grew up in the same generation of being introduced into comics. So for me, it was sitting there watching Fox, and I remember watching my first superhero, which was the 90s version of Spider-Man. So hearing that theme, the whole techno rock thing going on there, which carried over to Batman Beyond and other comic books shows that would kind of have that same kind of theme. But having that, I think Spider-Man had to be the first real one that I watched, and then I believe Batman Beyond came shortly after that, which was on Cartoon Network, if I'm not mistaken, that would just air that. And that's where I kind of grew up into comic books. I grew up not as in a wealthy family, so comic books were not there for me to access. Plus, I grew up in a country area, so a comic book store was definitely nowhere in the area. So growing up, I watched a lot of the whole cartoon Saturdays, Sundays, reruns if I missed it on Saturday. Just kind of watching all these cartoons, the Justice League, Batman Beyond, Spider-Man, the X-Men, anything I could get my hands on to watch. I remember even pleading to my parents to get Boomerang so I could watch the old cartoons of Batman and Robin where, you had the little pow and, all those stuff that was there to just watch them. I think when I turned into my 18s and 20s, that's when comic books became a really big thing for me, where I actually still have a collection of them. I have an entire box. I think when my apartment flooded, some of them got damaged, but I had as many comic books as I could possibly afford outside of my rent. So when I wasn't paying for rent, I was buying comic books. So I have a giant collection. And I think when we were talking about this last night, I'm a big DC fan. So when it comes down to DC lore, it was DC for me versus Marvel. DC was more graphical. And I guess in my mind, that's what is my niche. So I like the fact that if Superman would punch somebody, there was blood. It was realistic. It was he punched somebody, there was blood. If he got hit by magic, he was going to bleed. Vice versa, Batman, Wonder Woman, everybody could get hurt, and that hurt was real, versus if you look at a Marvel comic or watch a Marvel TV show, someone gets punched and they kind of got like that little scrape there, but there's like no physical damage. So that's kind of like where I fall into the spectrum of like how I grew up and what like I favored more versus Marvel. Like Marvel to me has very iconic stories, but then I think they overkilled it with Spider-Man. So like they kind of like over the years from the 90s into the 2000s, they kind of like shoved Spider-Man down our throats to a point that like it kind of disinterested me from Marvel for a little while until like Iron Man came out. Until they started introducing all these other comics heroes, then Marvel caught my interest. But at the time, DC had all the shows, all the cartoons, you know, and it was like, oh, Justice League, Teen Titans, and it was just like nonstop, you know, DC circulating everywhere.
Static Shock.
Yeah, Static Shock. You had Static Shock.
Fucking love that one.
You know, and it was great. And, you know, they introduced a lot of characters, which then, like, even piqued my interest even more. Like, when they introduced Shazam. Like, I didn't know who Shazam was when I was a kid. You know, like, now they have the movie. And, I mean, like, now, like, this generation has an idea of who Shazam is. But when we were growing up, Shazam got introduced in the Justice League, and I think
beating up Superman.
Yeah, beating up Superman, because they literally thought he was a Superman counterpart, and like he basically when I saw Shazam, I was like, is that Superman? He has very similar powers. The only thing is he got lightning bolts versus laser eyes. So I'm like, it was a very, you know, like I was very into Shazam and everything, and I think I had like all my favorite characters out of all the comic books has to be between Doctor Strange and Green Lantern. And out of those two, like if it comes down to Marvel, I'm a big Doctor Strange fan. So when that movie came out and I found that he's going to be playing this major role, because usually Doctor Strange is like one of those back characters. So you like people, you can go like to an average comic book fan and be like Doctor Strange, and they can be like, yeah, I know some things about him. But like it was great to see that he finally got like a really big opening into the verse, being like, no, he's actually really important. And then like the Green Lantern, for me, like just the depth that the Green Lanterns go into, they could literally build the DC universe 10 times over in comic books for all the lore they got.
It is, yeah. They have so much going on inside that, so I completely agree. It's always been like the X-Men, or the Marvel's X-Men, excuse me.
Yes.
Where like X-Men has their entire fucking thing where it's like, who is this? What's going on? And like there are some people who only deep dive into that shit. Same thing for the Green Lantern, where there are times where people are like, oh, you don't know this guy? He protects sector blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, haha, Hal Jordan. Like I know the Earth's ones, and that's where I personally kind of stop. But I do know one of my favorite animated ones is Green Lantern Emerald Knights, and it's an anthology story, and they kind of go through a little bit of history and shit like that, and that I like, and that's as deep as I go, but you're absolutely correct. There's a lot to go in there. Who's your favorite Green Lantern?
I actually don't have a specific Green Lantern. I do believe like each one plays like their major role. Now, and I'm not even saying like the ones that we like, the two major ones, obviously, we have that are, you know, section to Earth at any given time during the universe. But I think as a whole, the whole organization has to be like my whole favorite thing, because each one plays their own part. So it's kind of like if you were looking at the Nova Corps, and, you know, and you're like, oh, do I like Nova? No, I mean, like Nova's cool, but there's so many more of them in the Nova Corps that all play this fundamental part. He's just like the main character. But like out of like any one of the Green Lanterns, I'm not really specifically in favor of. Because like, do I like certain people? Yes. But like, I don't really have a favorite. I just like the Green Lantern Corps as a whole.
Nice. I would say growing up, I can feel you beat for beat of really the cartoons being my introduction. And I specifically feel that eventually Marvel did, but DC did it better in terms of here's a fuck ton of people, especially by the time we got to Justice League Unlimited, where you see people that, you know, Hawk and Dove. I had never heard of Hawk and Dove before that show. And now, you know, with Titans on the DC, I was like, oh, I get that now. Other ones that I could think of, Fire and Ice. I don't know why I'm only thinking of pairs, but again, never thought of it. But when I'd go into a store and that was the person on the cover, I'd be like, oh, okay. Whereas I don't feel like I got that with Marvel sometimes. Now, with the cinematic universe, you know, like we're going to talk about in a little bit, if Falcon was on its own cover, I'd be like, I don't know who that is. Because there was a Marvel show where he was on it, but I just feel like they never got the same airplay.
The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's where the Falcon made his first introduction, at least in the modern version of the Marvel-verse, is that he was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. So he played a big part. But we'll get into that in that part of the segment of how he gets introduced into the Marvel-verse.
Yeah. But cartoon-wise, there was a Avengers show that he was in, and he doesn't look like he does now because, thank God, that was one of those. I'm all for spandex, and apparently Anthony Mackie was too, but it wouldn't have transferred as well. But I would agree that DC Animated growing up was absolutely everything and just gave you this pantheon of characters. And then all of a sudden, yeah, you can carry those over into the different books. And then when they come on different things now, because I think the Arrowverse, though I'm not a huge fan myself, I like everywhere they're going with it. You know, everybody's on that show. Really deep cuts, weird characters where you're like, really? That's cool. And still today, animated wise, are you up with Young Justice?
I did watch Young Justice. I thought it was a very good show. I don't know if are they still continuing that, or was that because I've watched what has been available through Hulu or Netflix when it's there, but I have not seen anything as for the animated series if that has continued. I literally thought that was done. Like I thought they cut the show.
Technically, yeah, they did. They made 2 seasons that you could probably watch on said shows or said platforms. But then they made a third one for the DC app that eventually is now only for comic books. And if I believe, if I'm right, the 4th season will come out on HBO Max. So you can get the 3rd season DVDs. I will gladly let you have them so you can watch it because the show does it's awesome. Another show just to be like, let's not set everything up. But this is just where the cards lay, guy. Boom, we're in here. Everybody has I don't have to have an origin story. It's just this is what's going to happen. Let's go on missions. Let's kick ass. Here's a new person. Here's a new person. Boom, boom, boom. And everything just keeps moving in one direction. That once you're done with the season and you pull back, you can actually go and rewatch and go, oh, shit. Now I understand. Holy shit, that was cool. Yeah. They set that up mad long ago. That was a really, really good show.
Yeah. And when it comes down to Marvel and DC, I think Marvel dominates that. The theatrical spectrum, Marvel's dominating that. And I give props to Marvel for their movies because they are very good. Obviously, you covered the Zack Snyder thing where if Warner Brothers would have let that be that 4-hour long movie, let it be like the Lord of the Rings. We'll sit through the whole thing. But when it comes down to animated, I believe Marvel has it. And when it comes down to their character development. Everybody has a love interest. And I think you saw one of my posts on Facebook where I sat there saying, people always like to compare Harley Quinn and the Joker to, their real life relationship. And I'm like, that's a terrible.
It's really bad. Stop that.
Yeah, it's like, no, that's very, you don't understand what had, how that even relationship even began for you to even want to compare your relationship to that. And you wouldn't want to. But when it comes down to the DC universe, you got so much love in there. There's a lot of love interest versus the Marvel where you got Black Widow and then the Hawk and Black Widow and then Captain America. There's not that much love unless you go into the X-Men, where then the X-Men has basically all that character development, whereas you just kind of feel all right, these people are around each other all the time that eventually they kind of start falling in love with each other. They start having interest with each other, which also builds more development into what you're watching or reading even more.
And you always get the love triangle of Wolverine and Scott and Jean.
Yeah.
I would like to see that. I'm not very big fan of the Fox, how they did. There's some stuff in there. I'm trying to beat around the bush of, all right, let's make a Marvel show about that. I don't like Marvelized everything, but so far I really liked WandaVision. I really did. We're going to talk about why I didn't like this new one in a little bit, but I think if we could get 8 hours of a show, of an X-Men show, introducing them into the universe, that would be cool, because you're right, the X-Men are just so big, and I think a movie to get them in would just be too little. So I would really like to see an X-Men kind of live action. I wonder where they're at with that, if that's ever going to, it's going to happen. I'm just wondering when at this point.
I think they're building up to that. I believe not to jump ahead of like segments or anything, but I believe that that's where I think they're heading towards. I think out of the shows, they're leading us into something a lot bigger in the Marvel universe. It's just, what is it? Like, we could speculate all day, but I think that's what they're doing. And I watched something very interesting with WandaVision and then the Falcon and the Winter, where if you were paying attention, and I know that's pretty hard to pay attention with the Falcon and Winter, and we'll get into how hard it was to pay attention to that show, but they're saying that at one point in time, there was a program where something like Wanda's Vision, where she took the town and she made all these people do it, what they did, and made them into characters, that they did that with all the bad people. So like all the villains. Well, actually, I wasn't in the Falcon. I'm sorry. I just kind of like lost track there. I wasn't in the Falcon. I was actually watching something on YouTube, and in a comic book, there was a part of the Marvel universe where they kind of like entrapped them in basically a WandaVision style area, and they called it Pleasantville. And they put all these villains in there, altered their memories, altered their personalities, and forced them to be good, and then live in this bubble for like basically just like how the Suicide Squad is, and they were just kind of molding these villains back into like positive citizens again.
And where was this?
It's part of a comic book version. It is in the Marvel. I was literally watching just for this podcast, I was literally watching Bucky's history. And in the history, Bucky ends up going into this dome of Pleasantville because he cannot suppress his own memories of when he was a Winter Soldier. So he even like forcefully just makes himself go in there just to become a better person. But I'll send you the video. So like it's probably like, I think the video is like 13 minutes long, and they got to that point and it blew my mind because I didn't even know about it. It was like 10 minutes into the video, and I'm like, what? There was a WandaVision before there was a WandaVision. And basically everything they described of how this area worked was like what we saw in WandaVision. It makes me believe that maybe we're heading that direction, where they're going to do that. But we never know. Like I said, we could speculate all day.
All day
about it.
With that, we have kind of already bled sections, which is really good. It's a perfect segue into this. So let's close out the bros. We'll open up the superheroes, where we're going to talk about 3 episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier on Disney+. And to be honest, I'm not going to be too nice about it, but we'll get to that as we enter superheroes right now. To give everybody a little bit of a backstory on the heroes that we're talking about today in the comic book history lore, we're talking about the Falcon and Winter Soldier, published by Marvel. As the Falcon, Sam Wilson first appeared in Captain America number 117 in September of 1969. And spoiler alert to something that's, quite old now, he does, in comics, become Captain America in the all-new Captain America number 1 in November of 2014 that came out. Bucky Barnes' first appearance goes way motherfucking back. Captain America Comics number 1, March 1941. That's basically as long as Cap's been around. I think he has been by his side. I think other than his debut issue, since 2 on, there was a Bucky Barnes, and then, stuff happened. He died a little bit. But he comes back as the Winter Soldier for the first time ever, seeing in Captain America number 1, January 2005. And, again, spoiler alert, guys, something that's also quite old. Sorry. He is Captain America in Captain America number 34, January 2008. So these people could have seen for a while why this show was going to happen once Cap retired. Like, both these men have history being Captain America. It's not our first time seeing these actors on screen. So the first time that we saw Mr. Anthony Mackie as the Falcon was in The Winter Soldier in 2014. Moved on to, we saw him a little bit. I don't know, did we actually see him flying around in Age of Ultron? He was just at the party in the beginning, right?
The Falcon, I think he flew in. Like, he literally flew into the scene. But other than that, we didn't really see him too much until about Endgame and when he came back with the others.
It was a glorified cameo at best. Same thing with Ant-Man. He was in another's movie, which I'm not a huge Ant-Man standalone movie fan. I like the character when he's fucking around with everybody else. I don't really like that movie, but I like that for that cameo that they chose, they were like, let's go with the fucking Falcon, man. Like, we just introduced him, so it's only been 1 year since we've seen his introduction. Like, let's throw him in there. And I really like that fight where he gets a bigger role in Captain America Civil War, where he really comes in as like, wherever he goes, I go too, just a little bit slower. And then, like you said, he's in both Avengers at the very end, Infinity and Endgame, playing a big part. Mr. Sebastian Stan, he comes in first, Captain America the First Avenger, where he's only Bucky. He's not the Winter Soldier. Maybe that's where I'm messing up. So he was only Bucky Barnes in Captain America the First Avenger, and then he dies.
Yes.
Then we get that, no, he didn't. He comes back. He's been mutated into this Winter Soldier, right? And that was in 2014. In Ant-Man, he's got a little cameo. Do you even remember this? I had to look this up.
No, I don't remember him in Ant-Man, and I do remember watching Ant-Man, but I do not remember seeing Bucky or the Winter Soldier in it.
I put the asterisk on it in our list because it's technically a scene that's lifted out of Captain America Civil War after. So in that movie, after Zemo releases him for the first time, they crash into the river from the helicopter and the giant muscle Captain America. And when he wakes up, his arm is in that clamp.
Oh, yeah.
That little scene was in the very end of Ant-Man. That was the post-credit scene. So technically he was in Ant-Man, but no, it was just a scene from the next movie that's on this list of Captain America Civil War.
Well,
in Black Panther, the same kind of thing. It's the same kind of, he does get the post-credit scene of like, let them come.
that's true.
And then he's very, very big in Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. And now we're talking about, they both got their own fucking show. So episode 1, New World Order. First one just premiered March 19th. I just caught up on all of them. So I watched episodes 1 and 2 yesterday and then caught up on number 3 today. So I'd have them all back to back. So I didn't watch this when this premiered. Not a big fan. We were talking off mic, and now to kind of recap, it opens with a fucking useless scene. I mean, if you want to call it a cold open, I'm not going to hold that against you because it has nothing to do with the plot whatsoever.
That is exactly what it was.
It does show that Anthony Mackie is there with the wings, which we expected. We do meet Joaquin Torres, played by Danny Ramirez, who will go on to have some stuff to do, but nothing in this scene really sets it up other than the fact that they do know each other.
Yes.
Which could have been set up by fucking anything. Just them sitting down and being like, hey, man, I got you this coffee. Sit down next to me. Like, oh, they must know each other. Anything could have done that other than this stupid fucking mission.
Yeah. He could have received a text, and that could have introduced him, and we could have been like, oh, okay. When will he show up? Other than that, he just kind of played as a filler into the whole thing. And I think when we were talking about it earlier, with this cold opening, we thought that this soldier that he was rescuing was going to play this significant part, at least the episode, to the beginning episode. Like, he was going to play this significant part, and he really didn't play a part other than just to being in part of this cold opening, which I thought, hey, this action scene was really cool. I thought, like, if they really poured their heart into showing us a really good action scene, and typically when you watch anything and it starts off with action right off the bat, you automatically in your mind sometimes think, oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be really good if it's already started this way.
It's going to be useful at the very least.
Yes. But then you realize, oh, no, the soldier didn't play a part. Next thing you know, he's repairing his jetpack, and it's just like, and then we see a hand, and he's waving his camera, and then the quality, and I will say this, the quality in which that he's looking at the camera and then the handprint is there, I felt like I was looking at like the Jurassic Park apps that pop up on Facebook. I was like, that is really horrible.
At the cafe later.
Yes.
Before we get there, I really want to just touch on George St. Pierre comes back, the MMA fighter who did also kind of come in for Winter Soldier, got his ass kicked by Captain America, and then are we led to believe that he escapes? Everybody else fucking dies. Like you were kind of talking about earlier, in both the animated and when you brought up the Snyder Cut, there are people getting shot here. You don't see blood.
Yes.
DC has always kind of leaned more into that. And again, that's always something where I'm like, fucking A, where you shoot somebody, you slash somebody with an axe, like, if they're made of blood, it's going to pop out of them. We see a bunch of people blowing up, a bunch of shit going on, but there's just so many cuts. It's a little disorienting. You see nothing what's going on. And the entire reason that we're on this journey, like you said, doesn't fucking pay off. This person doesn't do anything. It half reminds me of a bad Charlie's Angels 2, the Cameron Diaz one, where they go in. The entire opening to that is very similar of, we got to get this guy out of here. Look, we're on a mission. And then this opening goes, and then we start, and that guy plays a part in the role. Nothing. This guy just goes away. And like we're talking about, all of a sudden, he's just hanging out with Joaquin Torres, just like, oh, yeah, look, there's something going on. You should look at my phone. There's a handprint. It's like, stuff's, oh, let me touch your, no, nobody touches your stuff. All right, we're leaving. Goodbye. Like,
yeah, it kind of reminds me of like how the original, like James Bonds were. So like sometimes some of the James Bonds, not all of them, you would open up with James Bond in an action scene. It was not particularly part of the story of what was going to happen, but you saw some action right away, and you saw, you're leading James Bond, and he was on a mission, and he just gets done with it, and he gets handed what, the next mission. This, we kind of just got handed, like, I felt like that's what it was. It was like, they kind of went for like a James Bond feel. And it's like, oh, we're going to see him on a mission. Does this guy play a part? Okay, no, he does not. Maybe he will later. And even in the beginning of the episode, I thought maybe even the bad guys were going to at least tell us when they were on the plane what they were doing. Like, why did they steal this guy? And then secondly, the thing I never understood was they were almost over the border, and they were so concerned about the border, but they always reference the Falcon as an Avenger and not a military person. So as an Avenger, does borders even matter?
I think after the Sokovia thing is where they might have come in with that. And that also reminded me of another ripoff of the A-Team. I recently watched that, and they had the same opening of like going over the, not the same, but similar enough, where I feel like somebody watched Charlie's Angels 2 and the A-Team, and they're like, I got this opening, don't worry. But likening it to a Bond, you're right. They do just kind of open, it's like, watch me blow shit up, and then slow-mo credits, and now we'll start something new. Good call. We definitely see Anthony Mackie give up the shield. He goes against everything at the end of Endgame, like, even though we kind of got a foreshadowing, like, doesn't feel like mine, but Cap says it is. But he still gives it to the Smithsonian, and he's like, nah, I'm not going to be Captain America. And, spoilers, the dumbass thought that they were going to just respect that and not choose a new Captain America, which at the end of the episode we see they do. What a dumb shit thing to do.
Yeah, when they did that, I was like, when he did that, I was like, what's the purpose of that? Number one, you were just gifted an iconic Stony, like the original, like Tony Stark shield, right? Because we know he repaired it after it got busted. So now you have that. You have also Tony Stark's tech, which is his, the Falcon suit. But you were just gifted from Captain America this shield, the symbol of not only America, but the Avengers, of everything that happened.
The red, white, the blue, everything, man.
So
America.
And he's like, and he basically gave it to you in faith that you're, even if he didn't take the mantle of Captain America, that he was gonna make the choice of who was gonna be Captain America. Like, here, I gave you this. You don't have to be Captain America, but you can give it to somebody that you believe can be Captain America. And he just gives it away, and he's like nonchalant, like he's pretty much like a Hamdy-down.
We need new heroes, yeah.
Yeah, it was,
the thing that also makes me think is, yes, Cap was very old in Endgame, but it's not like his life force was in the shield. So you have to imagine he's somewhere sitting in a house with Peggy going, what the fuck, Steve? And we're not going to get that shot. No, like, I really don't think we'll get him in old makeup again, but it's not like he fucking died at the end of that movie. He's got to be watching the same news that everybody had on conveniently of like, hey, check out this new motherfucker going, really? Bro, what the fuck?
Yeah. Like, you would think that he would got a text 3 minutes later being like, what the hell did you just do?
Yeah, maybe either that or just like, if they are still texting and talking like, hey, did you think of something? Well, who's your backup? Yeah. I'm thinking about giving this shit to a museum. Who was your backup before I do that?
Even if he didn't choose a backup, he could have just sat there and just kept it and just never gave it away, because you made a very valid point. Like, what did you think was going to happen when you give the shield? Like, either, number one, they're going to use it as a weapon because of the materials that it's made out of, or they're going to hand it off. They're gonna make a new Captain America.
This is America, exactly. Yeah, they're not gonna just. Oh yeah, you're right. This should sit somewhere. Stupid shits. In this too, in my opinion, and over the next 3 episodes, maybe over the course, my main theory of if Bucky wasn't in this, I would not be watching this. I find him to be the most fascinating character. He wakes up, he's still having nightmares about people he killed. We go into that. He's going to lunch with this old man, and we find out that he killed his son while he was the Winter Soldier. So he didn't do it, but he did it. And we get that line in Civil War as Tony's choking out, like, do you remember? And he goes, I remember every one. And it's a really intense moment in that fight scene. And then this is just something that cements that of like, I fucking remember. Imagine, seriously, really imagine being in your body and not being in control. And as that body's just tearing through human beings.
Yeah.
It's a seriously ghostly, haunting thought.
And you would be messed up. And I think like the key point of his opening is you saw him sleeping on the floor. And when you saw him sleeping on the floor, it kind of gave me like the vibe of like soldiers and people in prison. Like some of them can't ever get used to sleeping in a bed ever again because they were so used to that treatment that it was so deep in their minds that they just never could get that out. And you can see that with Bucky. He's sleeping on the floor. Like he has a very nice apartment. Like you saw it. And
it's like, big enough for a bed.
Yeah. And he chooses to sleep on the floor. No pillow. Like I didn't see a pillow. I can't recall if there was one, but I didn't think I saw one. I might have been too much in shock that he was sleeping on the floor, and that detail to it was very key to me for Bucky.
If you remember, the first time Sam and Cap ever talk, it's in that opening, and they're running on your left, and at the very end he says, I'll see you later, and he goes, it's your bed, isn't it? And Cap's like, what? And he goes, your bed. It's too soft. You feel like you're going to, and Cap cuts him off, sink right through like a marshmallow. So again, yes, what a fucking detail to bring in to something. You're right. We are dealing with massive amounts of PTSD that's going on in the show and being highlighted. Something nothing like that for me to kind of go through. But seeing this makes me think that little details like that are hitting a lot of people in a lot of ways of being true on. Of this guy can't even sleep unless like he says a line, I've been going from fight to fight. I had a little time in Wakanda where I wasn't asked to be a weapon of war or asked to be a killing machine. But like this is the second time now where he had a period of time of nothing to do. And yeah, he's just at home sleeping on the floor, taking this guy out, thinking maybe if I buy him enough lunch, his son will come back or some shit like that. Or who knows?
We don't know what his agenda is and why he's doing that. Maybe he's trying to build a sense of humanity because he lost it. So he's trying to do that with this older man. It's really unsaid. And I mean, like you said, like the only reason why Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like I'm watching, it's because of Bucky. Because like when it comes down to it, like, is the Falcon interesting? Yes. He was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. He got introduced, obviously, unlike the comic books where he was naturally already gifted, and then because of the cube, he gained more powers from reading minds of birds or talking to birds.
Empathetic towards nature. Yeah, I read that too, and I was like, oh, what a stupid way to put it. But he could kind of feel birds and make them. Because Red Wing was a bird. Yes, that's funny.
So, but like, they made him a super soldier, so, right, that's fine. But I felt like Bucky's story is like the true story to this show right now because that's where the interest is, and it's like, for me at least, I don't know about the other viewers or anyone else that listens, but Bucky is like right there, and what they're putting into Bucky is great. Like, he went into the scene where he's talking to the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist thinks he like killed this lady who I want to say was like leaking information and
doing some sort of nasty shit,
some
taking
shady stuff.
Yeah, advantage of people through the power he gave her. He said.
Yeah, so he like hacks into her car, scares her, and the whole time the psychiatrist is thinking like, oh man, he snapped, he's back to the Winter Soldier, he's killing people, and he's like, no, I didn't kill her at all. I just gave her a nice little scare, called the police, and that was nice, and it was good to see that he is trying so hard to not be that.
And unfortunately, and I don't mean to bash Anthony Mackie, because they are trying with him as well. On the flip side of that, we go back, we meet his sister Sarah. We're figuring out that she's running a boat that was their parents, being fisher people. I don't want to say fishermen, because that they were people who fished, and they had this boat, and now she's got 2 kids. We're led to believe that the father died. I can't really remember if he died or just fucked off. I'm almost positive she's a widow.
I'm positive that she's a widow.
Right?
I don't think I think he might have died in one of the Avengers movies. I think she might have been part of one of the calamities that was in at least one of the Avengers. I don't want to say that's like 100% correct, but I don't remember how he died.
But she's going through her own shit and kind of talking on the PTSD and what people coming back may have to face. Again, I don't mean to talk from an area of knowledge, but from reactions and different things I've read on the internet of coming back and trying to get a loan and trying to move on. And, well, what was your I was gone. You know, what do you want? What do you mean? I was over the seas, and then they were talking about the blip, and how do you make money when you don't exist? And yeah, look at you. You're an Avenger. Can I take a picture with your arms out? But no, I'm not going to lend you shit. And like, there was little touches of racism, things of like, oh, it seems like whenever we're around, things get tight. And again, it's something I can't speak of from knowledge, but something that I think is being brought up and talked about, rightfully so, in terms of this is something that people face when they come back. And, you know, being a super soldier or being an American or being an Avenger doesn't pay the bills sometimes.
Yeah. And I think that was a really good detail. I think like him going to the bank, them pretty much like, oh yeah, your fame and everything is not going to be enough. It's like, we can't give you money. But to me, I also sat there being like, well, wait a second. He was basically friends with Tony Stark. So at any given point, did he not think, like, I understand Tony Stark is dead, but at any point, did he like not think, like, I'm going to call up, you know, at least Tony Stark's like, you know,
Pepper.
headquarters and like the Starks headquarters and just be like, hey, look, it's the Falcon. I need some help and money. I was in the blimp. Can I get that? And for someone who is a billionaire, like Sony, like even though he's dead, they could have been like, yeah, no problem, Falcon. We're going to give you whatever you want, you know, and that would have been the case because he has Tony Stark's tech. So by technicality, he should be able to contact the Stark Tower. He should be able to kind of, you know, Stark Industries and be like, hey, look.
Pepper Potts is still alive. Yeah, we should be able to fly in on her and be like, listen, times are tough.
Yeah. Even not even that. He could sit there and be like, look, my equipment's not working. Your husband's the one that made it for me. Can we get this?
Friday can fix it for sure. The automation, I'm sure.
Yeah. Can I get, you know, some help? And I'm sure Pepper being Pepper would be like, oh, no problem.
I saw Steve give you a shield. Like, yeah, you must be legit. You know, like it did seem like he may have had other options. And he did say, I'm going to go to every bank in this town. But it maybe seems like there were other strings that you could have pulled first rather than doing that. I don't really know. But that's all that he was really given. Unlike Bucky, who's given a different set of problems, but he just played it so deep. And by the end of the episode, we are introduced to Mr. John Walker, played by Wyatt Russell, who will now be the new Captain America. And everybody goes, oh, shit. And that's kind of how the first episode ends. We can roll right into number 2, the Star-Spangled Man, which is a great callback to, you know, when Steve first becomes Captain America and he is used more as a puppet, you know, of, what's the word that I'm trying to think of? I'm sorry. Propaganda. He became a puppet of propaganda, and there's that song like boo doo 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 doo. They're kind of playing that in there, and like I was telling my wife, I was like, this is fucking awesome, because I really did enjoy that. But we do get more of John Walker. This is one where he does like the interview at his high school, and he's the new Captain America, and he's an impressive specimen of a person in this universe that we've seen so far.
And when he got introduced at the end of the, you know, the first episode, I looked at him and I said to myself, this is not, for me personally, this is not a good looking Captain America. Because like the whole mask and everything, and with the actor's nose, and, you know, not bashing his physical appearance, but he kind of looked like he should be Bizarro, the Superman. Like, I was like, oh, this is, like, you would think if you're going to make a replacement, the original actor for Captain America, you know, was iconic. You know, as an actor, he was very handsome. He was very everything. And then to see him like without the mask, he's very well looking guy. But then with the mask on, he looks like his nose has been broken several times, and he's forcefully that the whole head mask is just not working for me.
It does not do well for him at all.
It just doesn't work for his face. Like, just keep the hat off. He's a good looking man without that hat. Like, keep the helmet off. And that's Captain America right there. And to me, like when they introduced him, at least visually, I was not impressed with it. Was I surprised at the end of the episode that they remantled, Captain America? No, not at all. And then with him in the high school, I thought that was a great way to show him as, introducing him to the people. And just say, hey, he's like a normal dude. But the thing that we never got told, and I don't believe until later in the episode, that he's also a super soldier.
Has he been given the formula?
He, in the one scene where they're walking, and we're going to jump ahead to the end of the episode, but he's walking, and then they're talking in the Jeep, and they're like, oh, look, 4 super soldiers all in one car. And right there, it's like, oh, wait a second. He's a super soldier now? Like, nowhere in the beginning of the episode there's any indication to that until the end of the episode where they make the line that there's 4 super soldiers in the car.
Yeah, but Sam's not one.
If I'm referencing this right, he said 4 super soldiers in the car, or maybe 3. But either way, he gets referenced as a super soldier. So why wasn't this in the beginning of the episode? For me, it's kind of like how we got introduced to Captain America. We got to see Captain America. He was all dinky, small. Then he got, injected with the serum. He became Captain America. We know what we were used to seeing. We didn't get to see that with this soldier. So, like, we got to see him practicing with the shield, and he's, like, pinging it off of things like if he was really Captain America. But we don't get an indication of other than he's just a soldier, if he's a super soldier, until towards the end. And if I'm trying to remember correctly, I'm pretty sure they do reference that he is a super soldier. And if that is the case, and I may be getting this wrong, is he or is he isn't? He's just a normal dude wearing a Captain America suit? Because if so, then he's really, truly not the hero that we're going to expect him to be.
Personally, I think he's just a dude. I don't think that that he will eventually. Because we do know, and we're kind of skipping ahead to episode 3, how many vials were made. So in the beginning, there was the German scientist, and he made the Red Skull. He perfected a serum. He made Captain America. Serum disappeared. It kind of came up a little bit where Zola figured it out a little bit for the Winter Soldier. And then we learn by Civil War that there was 5 other Winter Soldiers, but by the end of that, they're all fucking dead. So as we're here, we get 8 people who are identified as having super soldier. And the only reason I'm really saying this is because we've seen them hit people and the people fly. Yes. We haven't seen that from the new guy, Captain America, yet. You know, he's put people down, but he's not kicked a motherfucker across a room like a super soldier, like we're seeing. Yeah. So I'm thinking that it's definitely going to come because people who read comics and are deep on that shit, and just from what I did, we both talked about comics-wise, we're both more DC fans. But so I'm just looking this up and reading off the internet, and spoilers to anybody, sorry. But we do know that the guy John Walker in comic history becomes the U.S. agent, which I think is cute, U.S. agent. Yeah. His first appearance was in 323 of Captain America in 1986. And he was first like the super patriot, and then he became an incarnation of Captain America as the USA agent. So I definitely do think that we're kind of going towards this, almost like what you were talking about. We're going to get Nega Captain America out of this guy. Because from what I've seen, he's... The thing about Chris Evans playing, so really Steve Rogers, always comes down to, in my opinion, one moment that we've seen cinematically, where Tony's trying to win him over with the pens, and he says, listen, sometimes I wish that I could just turn away sometimes I wish I could just look the other way. And Tony goes, no, you don't. And Steve just kind of laughs like, no, I don't. He likes being good for good's sake, period. Yes. There is always a means to an end But if that means has any amount of bad, I'll pick up from Bruce Wayne, even if there's a 1% chance that there could be bad in those ends, he backs the fuck off. He's not willing to be bad for any reason. And it doesn't come from a Jesus quality or this, it just becomes a moral compass of like, no, there's good and there's bad. And I know what's good for me and for like almost for everybody because I'm fucking Captain America, you know? Like I do believe in him. If it came down to the Sokovia Accords of just like trust the government to send the Avengers out or trust Steve Rogers to know when he should step in, my vote goes to fucking trust Steve Rogers. I trust you. Whereas I really don't get this from the John Walker character. We see him get a little dirty in number 3, but it's definitely, in my opinion, turning into a nega Captain America kind of thing. And right off the bat, these heroes, so we do get a scene where Bucky and Sam team up with John and what's his sidekick's name? Battlestar?
Yeah, Battlestar.
I think it's Battlestar, and that's where Bucky's like, stop the car, and he gets the fuck out. That was pretty funny. And they're not having it either, you know. Just because you have the shield doesn't mean that you represent, doesn't mean that you mean anything, and almost kind of become enemies.
Yeah,
or at least we're not going to play nice together.
Yeah, then it becomes like a civil thing where like they hate each other, but they're not going to fight yet. And I think between Bucky and the Falcon, I think as those two actors and just the two characters in themselves, they are very hilarious. Like I have found myself when they're arguing with each other, you know, kind of chuckling at the fact that like they have this, one has like this serious view and the other one's like, you know, he's a little bit more laid back. So it gives you like that Batman Robin kind of thing going on and, you know, just more comical. And I found like that I could laugh at it, but does it make up for the whole show? No. Like there are some good parts to it, but I also just kept on like, even in episode 2, it was just like, where are we headed? Like we're on the 2nd episode by now. We still do not know what is going on. Did the Falcon get money for the boat yet? Like we kind of left that one in the wind, and then we don't know what's going on with, you know, with Bucky, you know, and like Bucky's mental health. And we kind of left that one out to the wind. We're like, I guess we'll say that for a couple episodes later. And then we just don't understand where this story is headed yet. So from episode 1 to episode 2, we have no clue what the main plot to this is. And it's not like it's WandaVision, where WandaVision kind of gave you that same sense, but you kind of already knew there was something amiss with what was going on in the show. Here, it's like,
we know who the Flag Smashers are. You already put that out, but why aren't we getting there quicker almost? Sorry to cut you off, but that's how I feel as well.
Yeah, it's like we know it. Why isn't anyone focused on it yet?
Because Joaquin Torres, who in a different world, it's funny, is the Falcon. On Earth 616, he kind of becomes like, we were talking about Batman Beyond, remember, where there were splicers?
Yeah.
He becomes like a Falcon splicer, and they call him the Falcon for Sam Wilson's Captain America. Just a side note for fun. But he's the one who we meet in that bullshit beginning in the episode 1. And then they go and have coffee and he's like, you got to watch this. And he's been propelling the story. But meanwhile, in episode 1, they're both separate. Bucky and the Winter Soldier and the Falcon don't do anything. And in the second one, when they meet up, he's like, I'm going with you. And that's where I dropped the ball of like, why? Like you already said that you guys aren't talking. He's ignoring your text. You show up. You do what you call playful banter, but in my eyes, I'm like, these fuckers don't like each other. Like, they really just honestly do not like each other. After Sam gave up that shield, Bucky just downright fucking hates him, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I'm going with you. Oh, why? Because the story needs you to? All right, let's go with that then. Like, it didn't make any motherfucking sense.
No.
And then they find out a little bit more about the Flag Smashers. I can't remember if it's at the end of episode 1 or 2 where Torres gets his face kicked in, which in my opinion should have killed him.
I think that was in episode 1 because his face was messed up in the beginning of the second episode when they go to jump out the plane, which was, you know, ridiculous, number one. You know, like, the Winter Soldier's like, oh, I'm going to jump off. And he's like...
He thinks his hand will stop him, but no, it doesn't.
And then he faces no real... I get it, he's a super soldier. But he didn't break an arm. Like, the other arm that's not mechanical, he didn't break a leg. He, like, landed on the ground flat on his back. And I've personally fallen out of a tree, and I'll tell you, as many branches as you hit going down does not slow down the momentum that much that it's going to stop what you're gonna like when you hit the ground, the effects of that impact. So to me, I was just like,
What the fuck is
Yeah.
going on here?
and they made it like Bucky was being like this silly, persona, and it's like, no, Bucky should be a very serious assassin. Like if he would have jumped out, he would have jumped out in a clearing and should have landed right on his feet and started
They
booking.
played him a fool,
Yes.
to be honest.
Yeah, and it's like he should have booked it, and
Yeah.
it's like yeah, his memory might have been altered, but he hasn't forgotten what he was.
And we see that later, which really, when you look back, you're like, he would have definitely known how to have rolled a little bit better at the end of the day. That's a good fucking point.
Yeah, I just thought it was ridiculous. I was like, why is he being played as a dummy?
He did.
And that's how I felt. It was like he's being played as a dummy. Like, oh, he's from the 40s. He doesn't know TV shows. He doesn't know hit music. Okay, that's fine. Neither did Captain America when he got the thought.
We've played that card, though, so now to watch it on somebody else, you're just like, yeah, okay, let's just keep going, if you ask me.
But now they're going to play him like he's stupid, and it's like, no, this is like one of the best killers, soldiers, assassins you can ever see, and he's going to land flat on his back out of a plane?
No. But that's when they go on to meet the aforementioned, when Captain America and Battlestar then meet the Winter Soldier and Samus, because they are fighting the Flag Smashers, who believe that when the blip happened, half as many people, supplies had to either equal that. Right now, let's just say we only have half the supplies that we need for everything. If half the population disappeared, we'd have 100%, if not more, and life's got to get back to this. Now that people have come back, people are struggling once again. So these Flag Smashers want to steal for their Robin Hoods, and I think they even say that shit. Like, they are taking, in the third episode, again, sorry to jump, but they say, you had 6 months of stuff here, and we took it. And then she blows them the fuck up, too. But we find out that, like, kind of the leader is Carly Morgenthau. And again, if you're a comics reader, you're just like, hey, I know what's going on there, because Carl Morgenthau plays the singular character, or is the singular character of Flag Smasher. Yeah. So it's a cool little nod of what they're doing. I don't think it's going to be like, I'm his daughter and I'm here. I don't think any of that. I think they just played it the way they are. That's the thing with these shows that I hate about the fans. It's like, if it's not a literal adaptation of a comic book, it's stupid. It's like, no, it could just do its own thing, let's just play it this way. And you're lucky that I gave you Carly at all, because I could have just said it's what's the girl's name? I don't know why I couldn't. It's
It'll be Hillary for some odd reason.
Exactly.
It doesn't rhyme with the original character. You have no point. We
No.
call her Hillary Duff. For some odd reason, it'll be Hillary Duff. And you're just
no,
like,
not
oh,
that
no.
Hillary Duff, but I still kick ass.
Yeah.
That's fucking funny. We find out that's where they meet, and she's a super soldier for sure, kicking shit, and we see them kind of taking stuff, and it's at the end of that they're dejected. They're in the back of the Jeep. They're talking to Captain America, and they're like, we're not going to work with you. We need to work with somebody else. We got to figure this out. Who's the only other motherfucker who knows about super soldiers? Dun, dun, dun. Zemo. Right? That's basically what happened. And then we get into the third episode. I didn't even write down the name.
Before we go to the next episode,
Please.
can we say that the last that fight scene in episode 2 when they're fighting on the trucks was also very terrible. Like, I did not feel compelled or excited for that fight at all. And like at first I was like, again, like I see it starting and you get excited, and then all of a sudden you get the adrenaline starts to want to pump, and then it's just like, what am I watching? And it was like they all fought very terribly. And for number one, I get it, they're super soldiers, but you got you got the Falcon, who's a soldier, who has fought basically parademons, or not parademons. I'm going into DC. You're basically fighting these monsters from Thanos. So
what the fuck were those called? Chitaris.
Yeah, Chitaris.
He's done that. He's done Ultron robots. He's done the other things from Thanos' thing. What are those things? The dog things. Yeah,
the dog things.
Right.
He was an agent of steel. He fought in a couple episodes there. With some of the agents of Steel when he was, when he couldn't control the side effects of the serum. So you had this guy, and he couldn't do anything. Then you had Bucky, who again, where I keep coming back to, he's like this assassin. He's supposed to be like this great fighter, and we see that in episode 3, but in episode 2 when they're on the trucks, we don't see anything at all. We're basically
not very good. Yeah,
no, it's like you might as well. It's like they had a couple beers while they were on the plane and some shots, and they were really drunk, and then they landed on the truck, and they were too messed up to fight. And
everybody did just enough not to die.
Yes, and that's the thing. And I could be mistaken that the new Captain America is not a super soldier. I might have misheard it. Maybe it said 4 soldiers in the truck, but he also threw that shield so perfect to catch Battlestar or whatever his name is. Because I didn't really take much interest to that side character. And he throws a shield to catch him so perfectly, and it's like, what is that? Like, if you could throw the shield like that, why didn't you throw the shield at one of these guys' heads? And knock him out.
Yeah, at the high school we did see him do training of bouncing it off shit. So that's
and he did not utilize
very anticlimactic.
anything.
No, it just kind of sucked. And you're right, it was super cut. There's lots of cuts. I've been watching Fear Factor, and there was literally just a stunt where they had to go like 2 I was just like, hey, look, it's Fear Factor.
Yeah,
there wasn't a lot of weight to it. You're right. It was kind of a really shitty fight. So we haven't. I think the best one actually is going to come up right now as we talk about episode 3. Power Broker is what it's called. And we did kind of touch on a lot of what we learned in terms of the super soldier serum, of how many there are, who has them. Right now we know that the Flag Smashers have all of them. They took 20 or some shit like that. I think they used 8, so I think we're led to believe maybe there's like 12 left. And now the Power Broker is going to come begging for them because he doesn't have a supplier anymore. We talked about all that, but the thing in this episode that stood out was Agent 13 comes back, and it's like, why? This bothered the piss out of me, so they had to go and talk to some bitch about figuring out who to talk to about the serum. You talked about Bucky gets to be he's got to pretend to be the Winter Soldier, and he fucks some guys up super easy. Yeah. Barely an inconvenience. Really fucks their day up.
Had to be at least 8 people, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less, but with ease, like he's been doing it his whole life, and practically so.
This lady gives them a little bit of the breadcrumbs, and now they're running away because there's $1 billion bounty on their head. And as they're running away, maybe 3 people are chasing them. There was an entire bar who wanted to kill them, an entire bar who saw them leave, and an entire bar who sent a text message about $1 billion, but only 3 or 4 people chased them, which was fucking weird. And then Agent 13 happens to be there, kills the 3 or 4 people, and nobody else was still chasing them for $1 billion. She hides them out, takes them to a rave. What the fuck was that scene about? It did nothing. It was a pain in the ass, and I'm sitting there watching it like, this is the shortest episode so far, and we're wasting time watching these fuckers dance? With one line of like, oh, you guys know how to party. And that was it. It was the dumbest shit. What the fuck happened there?
I think that I felt like it was an extra. Like that scene was like, oh, crap. We need to put something in.
Should we cut this? No, it'll only be 40-something minutes then. Like, it was fucking stupid.
It wasn't. And can we even talk about like the opening of the 3rd episode where it kind of felt like it was an Ocean 11 or 12 or any of the ocean movies, like opening where he's sitting there and they're going to the it looks like a parking garage. It's a basement, something. And Bucky's talking, and he's saying, like, well, hypothetically, what happens if this would happen, this would happen, this would happen? And it literally, you felt like it was an Ocean 11 thing going on, where, because, like, everything he was saying is like, oh, someone would trip the fire alarm right at the exact moment, and then this would happen. And it was, I literally thought I was watching Ocean 11. I was like,
that's fucking funny.
I was like, what the hell is going on here? And the next time he just walks through, and I'm just like, oh, he's free. Like,
that was nice and easy.
Like, this wasn't even a hypothetical thing. Like, this was actually happening the entire time.
I thought it was cute.
But I literally thought of Ocean.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, no. And then they go into that garage, and he's like, "Oh, all these cars are mine." And like the
I'm a baron. I have tons of money. This all makes sense all of a sudden because you need jets to fly you around the world, and I just have to have money to fucking fuel those jets.
It's like none of my estates were frozen while I was in prison. None of my,
my butler stayed around to do all this. Yeah, nobody went into repo or took anything.
Yeah. Well, none of my stuff was seized.
No.
Like, and that's like, to me, I was just like, well, how does any of this make sense?
We kind of skipped a beat. So at the end of 2, they realize that they've got to go talk to the bad guy of Captain America Civil War, Baron von Zemo. And when they go, they leave, but Bucky also helps him escape. And as he's helping him escape and he's telling Sam the plan of what would hypothetically happen, you're right, it is playing out in the real time. So we can exposition this shit very quickly to go absolutely fucking nowhere other than to go party with Agent 13.
Yeah. And that whole time, like, I was excited to see Bucky messing up people. Point of him, before even that happened, him cutting open up a snake for, the Falcon to drink as Smiling Tiger. And it's like, again, this is all pointless.
What are we doing?
What? This is just for, number one, it's supposed to be comical. But it's not comical.
It's not funny.
Because, we don't even see what he cuts out of the snake. Like, we see him cut
Probably
the snake.
his heart.
Yeah, and it's like he puts it in the drink, and he takes a shot. And it's like, is this supposed to be funny? Because it's not.
It's not.
It's not funny at all. And you're sitting there wondering, what are all these little things that they're... And it's feeling so forced that we're watching. And none of these actors are bad. The actor who's playing the Baron, and the actor playing Falcon, the actor playing Bucky, these are not bad actors. These are just bad scripts. These are just bad scenes. This is just poorly written, and they're doing the best they can. And even the back actors, in the bar, felt out of place. Like, you didn't feel anything. I kind of felt like when I was watching, I was very confused. Even when they were driving into the town, they were like, "This is High Town. This is Low Town." I can't even.
Where are we? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, and he's like saying, "Oh, that's High Town." Okay, I can see High Town in the distance, all the lights, and it looks nice. And then we're like, "Oh, we're heading to Low Town." Can I get a view of Low Town?
Can we look at it?
Yeah. Can I at least get a view?
So much money, no.
It's like, no, we're just going to give you a bar,
we're just
going to
go there. Yeah.
We're going to give you a bar, a rave, and then a shipping yard. So that's what we're going to give you.
And that shipping yard is the aforementioned best action scene I've seen so far. Agent 13 just goes through fucking beating the shit out of these people.
Yes. And I think she was really good at it. But also when I was watching Agent 13, I didn't feel the fight scenes were as authentic. So for me, the one part where she grabs a knife, so the guy has a knife and she grabs his hand and she basically fighting with that knife and then stabs him in the back, looked totally fake to me. And I was like, why didn't they just kind of speed up a little bit? They could have sped up all her fights by a couple seconds, just speed up the frame seconds and just make it look like it's happening super fast, but it's not happening super fast because we know she's a super agent. She's a badass. We know this. So
there's not enough blood too for everything they wanted to do. Either pull that fucking trigger or don't, if you ask me. But they're on Disney Plus, so they can't. And it's one of those things. Then just stop introducing it. You could have just given her a weird little taser gun like you give Natasha or some shit like that. And she took out some motherfuckers with pipes, which was cool. But eventually, she did go to shoot people, and it's like you shot him in the head and nothing fucking happened. This is stupid anymore. What are we doing?
We get the side effect, not the side effects. We get the sound effects. And, we get to hear the pings and we hear the knife go in, and all that nice stuff. But you're not visually seeing nothing really happen to these people. It's like, are they teddy bears?
I was pretty surprised with how beat up she came in at the very end because I was like, oh, that was, at least they gave her that. But at the very end, she was like, all right, clear my name. I'll see you guys later, and just fucked off. And I was like, this is stupid. We have wasted 3 episodes for fucking nothing. And I don't want to say that WandaVision was already up and running by 3 episodes, and I don't mean to always compare, but they are on the same platform. This is one after the other. Of, like you were saying, it was a slower burn. It was something different of them really setting up. But with this, it's like, guys, you're fucking Avengers. One of you at least is. You should be able to get this ball rolling way before this. You're relying way too much on other. I don't know. The whole thing is just kind of not getting there for me personally.
No, and my point is if you know they're super soldiers, and you know how bad that can be. Obviously, you have Bucky standing right next to you. So, why didn't anyone else call any of the other Avengers? Like, why didn't the Falcon go? You know who we need? We need Bruce Banner. You know who?
That's always the thing with these things. Yeah, where is Doctor Strange as WandaVision was happening? He said it was his job to make sure to watch the Earth of anything that's going on spooky or mystical wise. Meanwhile, this bitch takes over a town in New Jersey and nothing. So that's always the fun kind of thing with playing with the cards of what we want, what we can expect versus what they want to give us. So.
Yeah, but he didn't even again. We could have had a sense they can go into WandaVision and maybe make another episode. I don't know if the series is completely done. I don't think it is, but they can sit there and say in the first episode, Doctor Strange was busy. And it's like, oh, why wasn't Doctor Strange there? And then that one episode could just sit there and be like, well, I was busy and
battling Mephisto and finally give them their fucking Mephisto.
Yeah, I was I was in another plane of existence at the moment fighting this really bad guy, and now I'm back, and now I just kind of got caught up.
And that's what they'll do, for Bruce Banner in this situation. For everybody else, the only crossover we do get that I loved, oh my God, comes at the very end. And I'm not going to say the entire 3 episodes was worth this moment, but it did make me excited for episode 4. For those who forget, in Winter Soldier, we frame one Bucky Barnes, and by we, I mean Zemo frames Bucky Barnes for blowing up the UN, which leads to T'Chaka's death, who was the Black Panther, later succeeded by T'Challa. So to say that the Wakandans want to see Zemo dead would be an understatement at the very best, and now these guys have him broken out. So at the very end of the episode, Zemo and Sam are going to go into something to go look at something. I don't remember. And Bucky kind of holds back, and he's like, wait, I'm just going to go check something out. And he finds a little device, and he's like, you dropped something. And we see it's not Danny Guerrero. I don't remember the actress's name, but she was in Black Panther, and she was in Civil War. And she's there. It's a general in the Wakanda army, and she's just like, I'm here and we got some shit to talk about pretty much. Does she say any words? But that's what's led up to. But
no, she did say Zemo's name. I watched the episode this morning, and I can't believe I forgot that ending scene. So yeah, I mean, she shows up. She basically says, "Oh, I know you're with Zemo," and because Bucky finds that ball, and I can't tell if it was a camera, what that was.
I think it was a camera.
And he obviously she shows up. My thing is how are they going to play this with now that Wakanda's in the series? Now that the Black Panther's gone. And I mean, as the actor is now has passed away, whatever you believe in, rest his soul. And you now have him there. So now are we looking at the new Black Panther? Are we looking to see that maybe the Winter and the Falcon Soldier are going to introduce maybe the Black Panther's sister taking up the mantle?
Now, out of all the crazy shit I've heard today and over the internet, that, in my opinion, is the smartest motherfucking thing. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Let's hope you're right, because that's a good fucking point. Dude.
I mean, if you're looking at it, this is the perfect.
That'd be cool.
This is the perfect way to set that up.
It fucking is.
This is the perfect way to set up the new Black Panther, and they can come up with any story they want. Like, my brother got injured. He's dead. Whatever way they want to spin that story, they can introduce her as the female Black Panther.
And we don't need an entire movie to once again kind of come through. Let's set her up or set whoever up, and then when they get their sequel movie, when the Black Panther 2 comes out, it doesn't have to be an origin. It doesn't have to explain that. We've already done that. We set that up. Boom. Yep. Mic drop, motherfucker. That was good.
Yeah.
That's what they should fucking do.
Because then now she's introduced in the show. They could drop a new movie if they want to. Female Black Panther. They could do anything they want, but they will force you to watch the show so that you can understand that she's now the new Black Panther. We put in the plot for you, and we filled in the gap. Here we go.
And that's what's going to get me back, because I don't think I've hid my feelings at all that so far we have a little under 3 hours. Maybe it's 2 hours and 40 minutes of content. Not fucking impressed with much of it. There are a few beats that really Sebastian Stan sells me on. And I wasn't too excited. I know that we wanted to talk about this, so I more watched them because we were going to do this, thinking I'll wait until they're all gone, until they're all up, and then I'll binge the second half. But I might watch episode 4 just because of this Black Panther tie-in, especially to see. Now, if you're right, that was awesome.
Yeah.
But overall, for your impression of these first 3 episodes, to wrap this up, how do you feel?
I feel like that they're rushed. I just everything about it is just, when you get something like WandaVision, which is far more complicated, like that story plot, far more complicated than the Falcon and Winter Soldier, other than, getting people maybe who didn't watch Agent of Steel with the Falcon when he got introduced, just kind of catching him up on his story. Other than that, there's not much for you to really need to do for people for this story. There's not much of a build-up. You already had the movies. We already know Bucky. You had the Agents of Steel where, the Falcon was introduced. And then you had the movies where he was in. So you already have everything built. Why is this so terrible?
Why is this taking so long? What are we doing, And if we're going by IMDb, I think there's only another 3 episodes. They only have 6, so they're not named. So yesterday it just showed episode 1 and the name, episode 2 and the name, and then just went 3, 4, 5, 6. And now today it's number 3 in the name and 4, 5, 6. Are we only going another, do we really only have 3 more of these to look forward to, quote unquote, look forward to? Are we halfway through a story that's not grabbing me at all? Like, shit.
No. When I'm more interested in what the hell happened to Agent 13 than wanting to follow the storyline that is set across from me, that's sad. That is sad when I'm more interested in Agent 13.
What have you been doing? Yeah, let's look at that story. Yeah, that's a good fucking point.
Let's follow her real quick, because I kind of have a hunch that she is the power broker.
Ooh, you heard it here, folks. You'll have to come back for the second episode to see if you're right, but that's another good fucking theory. I could see that, because she was living fucking large. Ooh.
Yeah, she had a lot of things.
Lots of money, lots of power, lots of friends coming over.
Yeah.
Parties like that. There's
either she did really
drugs.
good. Yeah, either she did really good in the blimp, or she is the power broker, and again, she still did really good in the blimp, and she just gained control of everything.
Because it doesn't make sense that somebody hunting them wouldn't succeed unless, like, what's the name? Kaiser Soze himself, blending in right in plain sight. Fuck me sideways. That'd be a good one, too. All right, see, now you have me excited to watch the next episode more than anything else. Yeah. So we will definitely do that. We will hopefully reconvene and talk about if there's only another 3 episodes. We'll go through another 6 or another 3 episodes on the backside. If there's more, we'll definitely do a part 2 to wrap up the series. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Dude, you have been a terrific guest host. Thanks so much for coming and hanging out and doing all this with me. It was really nice. Like we talked about, we're family. We're going to get to be spending a lot of time together and getting to see each other at different events. And it's nice now to have a little bit of family that I can geek out with, and a little bit more, really, because JD is also now our family. We should do a 3-part family episode. All 3 of us hanging out.
We could.
Bro, JD, you listening? Hit me up if you want to do that. That'd be a lot of fun, right? With that, I think we can end the episode. Again, I can't thank you enough for coming out and doing everything. You have anywhere else, anything you want to plug, anything you want to hit people up on, where they can follow you, where they want more of you? You do some twitching, right?
I do some twitching.
That sounds really weird, actually, now that we say it. So Twitch is something in which you broadcast, just in case anybody's like, are you making fun of it? No.
We're not making fun of any
no
porn
Michael J.
problems.
Fox jokes,
Yeah. But no, right now my channel's a little dead for the moment, but when I get that up and running again, I'll definitely, do a shout out towards my gaming. But definitely want to just give one shout out to one person in particular. Congratulations to my brother, Orlando and Jess, on their marriage, that they're going to be getting married on Friday.
Nice. That's awesome, man. What a great way to end this, with love. I fucking love that, man. Love you for being here. Love this episode. Thank you again so much. If you're listening to us, you're out there and it's your first time and you want to follow more of us, find us on Instagram, find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I think I try to put it out there as much as I can. If not, the thing I ask for the most is just tell a friend. If you know a friend who likes buds, bros, or superheroes, you've got a fucking show for them. I've been Nick James. Thanks so much for hanging out. With that, buds, bros, and superheroes are out of here.